everyone. Welcome back to another session of Tech Talk with me, Tripti Sinha, your host from Tech Jobs Fair. And today we are about to dive into an exciting discussion that might be a game changer for your career. So, we are joined by a very special guest today, Mr. Daniel Alfin. He is the author of Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. Daniel joined LinkedIn in early 2004 and publishes articles, interviews, and exclusive content about advanced LinkedIn strategies to clients. So, hi, Daniel. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Tripti. Thanks for having me. It's great to be part of the Tech Jobs Fair community.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you with us here today on stage. And to all of our viewers today, this session is going to be very important and exciting because we know how much LinkedIn is important to us right now. And Daniel is about to talk about like do's and don'ts for our tech job hunters. So I think you don't want to miss out on this session, right? But before we dive into this topic and our conversation, let's take a moment to uncover your inspiring journey so far, Daniel. Can you share your journey with us?
With pleasure. I signed up early in 2004. I didn't know what I was signing up for. Never could I imagine that I would speak with you, Tripti, 20 years later. It's an exciting ride, and nothing gives us more pleasure than seeing someone we discussed, someone we helped find a tech job and flourish and gain experience. And I'm blessed with working with many candidates through LHH and other companies.
Great, great. So, before we dive into LinkedIn, because we know it's like biggest ocean, the platform for, you know, professional careers and all the professionals out there, right? So before we dive into that, what is one important advice you'd give for job hunters? Like, for example, who want to break into tech world and, are looking to upgrade their career. That what would be that
Thank you.
one?
Thank you very much. So I think my first suggestion would be to focus on the right people. So
Hmm.
I know we have people here who are interested in tech careers. If you can drop in the chat the position you're looking for, it would be very helpful. And let's take one example. Say I'm a full stack developer or automation engineer. Then many candidates and many tech job hunters are focusing on HR, on human resources, because they usually post the jobs.
Hmm.
But my suggestion would be to focus on the hiring manager and not HR, because the HR inbox, from my perspective, is where our application goes to die. The best thing that HR could do is forward our application to the hiring manager.
Right.
And the person we need to think about is not only the person who posted the opportunity, but the person who we want to discuss our experience with, and that's usually the hiring manager. So just think about in terms of guerrilla and not just seeing jobs and applying, and try to reverse the order.
Right. So, but usually, isn't it like, the human resources team or like someone from HR are the ones who give you like a screening call or something uh, to
Yes,
see whether you're fit for the interview, and then the hiring manager, comes in the
absolutely.
step or
You're
the
right.
process.
Okay, let's imagine that I'm an automation engineer and I get my CV in front of the hiring manager. That hiring manager may forward my application now to the HR, who will be in touch with me and maybe schedule a screening call.
Hmm.
But HR's response to the CV coming from the hiring manager is not the same as the one we post from our email. I'm not
Hmm.
changing the process. I'm not changing the order. But if we're successful in speaking with the hiring manager, then we're likelier to start the process. And HR is
Uh-huh.
often, you're absolutely right, the very first step. Still, we can somehow bypass gatekeepers, if you like, through LinkedIn or networking or real life networking, get to that
Yeah.
person. Then if they say, let's start the process with that person, then we have better chances of landing our dream job.
All right. That's like a plus point. Yeah. If you can have that relation built with the hiring manager. So step up to your uh, I think procedure of applying for jobs. So, what's a non-technical way to look at our LinkedIn presence? Like something every job seeker or tech job seeker who watches us right now could relate to.
Great. So I'll suggest three simple questions. First question is, who is our ideal reader?
Mhm.
Again, let's take a simple example. Say I'm a DevOps engineer. My ideal reader, based on what I just said, is the DevOps team leader or the manager I'm likely to report to. Then the second question I would ask Tripti is, if we could make the DevOps managers visit our LinkedIn profiles, what action would we like them to perform after they read our profile? And usually the answer is get in touch and schedule an interview or start the
Mhm.
interviewing process. And the third and last question, are we making it as easy for them to find us, to understand they need to scroll and read, to decide that they want to reach out to us? When we want to help them find us, we have to include the right keywords in our profile. When we add a profile photo, we want that photo to represent us in a professional way. And we want to help them understand the experience we bring to the table. So ask yourself these very simple questions. Who's the ideal reader? And change and replace it with the hiring manager you're likely to report to in your dream company. What action would we like them to perform after they read our profile? Let's get in touch with us and help them by removing every obstacle and making sure they understand that we are part of the solution.
All right.
Three questions.
So, as a professional or as a job seeker, right, who is looking forward to starting their career in the tech industry, so what are the things that they should know? Like, what should be the purpose of their LinkedIn profile, or who should it serve, and how can they make sure that it serves its purpose and they are getting what they are looking for through their LinkedIn journey? Because for most of them it's just a part of applying a job, and not because they don't try to build it as a personal brand, as their portfolio, but then just look at the way of applying for jobs. Like, one way of looking for jobs is LinkedIn. Like, that's what many people do think, right? Like, if they're like, I'm not getting a job, and like they would like search on LinkedIn, you'll get it. So for them it's just like one medium to look for jobs. So what should our LinkedIn profile serve?
I love the question. I love the way you put it, because if we only use LinkedIn's jobs section, then it's like we're giving a Rolls Royce, and we're saying, hey, the window here is nice. It's nothing important, because there are a lot of other job directories and
Yeah.
events that could help us identify the right jobs. But there is no other platform, no other major platform that we know of today that can help us to identify within the company we'd like to work for people who studied with us, people
Right.
we may have worked with, the hiring manager. There is no other tool like that. So instead of thinking that our profile needs to serve us, again, our profile needs to serve the ideal reader, the person we're likely to report to. And that is based on the way we craft our profile. And also the question, who do we connect with? Because when I look at your profile, if you and I share a mutual connection, or 2 or 15, we will see all names. And what I think of these people will actually influence my decision to get in touch or to move to another candidate.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of seeing mutual connection and how your relation or your rapport is with that individual, because that might reflect to connection of the other person. So yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, because I've seen a lot of people do this, like they just view LinkedIn as the source of you know a job search. And then I'm like, I've even seen people, like who opened a profile, like logged into it, signed up to LinkedIn just when they lost a job and they didn't have LinkedIn, and then they just want to get into LinkedIn and then look for jobs. That's it. And then once they get a job, or if luckily they get a job, then they stop using the LinkedIn profile, and just by adding started working here, and that's it. That happens
It's a
quite a
pity.
lot.
It's a pity. It's very common. What you described is very common, and it's probably maybe the worst way to use LinkedIn,
Hmm.
because you're using it as a billboard, to see what jobs there are, maybe logging in every 5 years. But if you understand that you have years of career ahead of you, then building your network in the long term will not only influence and improve your chances of finding a tech job today, but
Hmm.
also the next job, the one you'll
Right.
be a senior developer, the one you may want to lead a team, and
Hmm.
and you don't. It's not enough to be a good programmer. To
Hmm.
have to keep in touch with the right people, and keeping in touch with people is one of the easiest way to leverage LinkedIn. Just check your notification and see that Jane Doe has started a new position.
Yeah.
And instead of just saying, wow, that's great, spend maybe 30 additional seconds. Visit her profile. Scroll down to see the exact date she actually started this position, because it may have been this morning, but it could be, just like you said, that she started it 6 months ago. And it doesn't make sense to say congrats. What makes more sense is reaching out to her and to ask how she's been and how
Hmm.
have these 6 months gone.
Yeah.
And maybe
Right.
you'll hear from her that she's actually looking for something else, or she's being promoted, or other stuff. So be consistent about it. It will be a lot easier and a lot better from the long-term perspective, and not just a transactional. Now I'm looking for an automation position. Here's LinkedIn, then I dump it for 3 years.
Yeah. Also, like you mentioned, it's a common in everybody that they just look LinkedIn as like the medium for looking jobs or something. And what I believe is, like they spend so much time upgrading their personal life through Instagram or Facebook. But then I think they could spend a little 15 to 20 minutes, in upgrading their professional, let's say, professional self as well, right? And in the past, we've had many sessions like this where where there were multiple speakers who came, talked about LinkedIn, how we can make use of it, or how could we look for jobs, or gave like tips on how to grow your LinkedIn profile, personal brand, and all of that. But in terms of LinkedIn connections, what advice would you offer or give to our viewers right now?
Thank you very much, Shriti. I will ask this simple question. If you had to make a choice in 3 years' time, and you had to pick only one, would you like to be the best connected or the most connected? It's a very simple question,
Hmm.
and your answer may differ from someone else. That's fine.
Yeah.
But ask yourself, what is your connection strategy? There are pros and cons to each. What is the best advantage of most connected? It's exposure.
Hmm.
What is the best effect if we connect with people we know well? And remember the mutual connections. When we run an advanced search and we see someone in the company, we may notice that there's a mutual connection. And if we know that person well enough, we could get in touch with them, and they can refer us. They can introduce us to the hiring manager.
Right.
And unfortunately, most candidates, maybe not Tech Job Fairs community, but the others, the less fortunate, they start by thinking they need to be the best connected. At one point, they think they need to become the most connected. and they start to journey. They leave the best connected strategy, they move on to the most connected, but they stop in mid-song and they never get enough connections to have real exposure.
Right.
Because if we started with 400 connections and you knew all of them, then you could land interviews. If you have 60,000 connections, then that's a lot of exposure. But when you have 4,000, you think you have exposure. That's not really exposure in terms of LinkedIn. So you manage to dilute or pollute the quality of your network, and you gained only marginal exposure. So pick one. And if you think that best connected is good for you, then the fact you may be looking for a job today does not change that fact. Because looking for a job is a temporary phase. It could take, weeks or months. But again, after you land your new job, you'll have to pay the price for your actions. If you'd rather have exposure is often overrated. As talents, we don't need exposure. We need someone who can say, you know what, Tripti? There's a gentleman called Jacob Sher. He could be a good speaker for Tech Job Fair's event. Do you think you could get in touch with him? And if you say yes, then you will speak, and that person has more possibilities and a better chance of speaking with you or landing their next job. So ask yourself, best or most, and pick one.
So, do you think if they choose, any one of it, would it be good or bad? Like, is it good or bad, or both has its pros and cons?
I think both have their pros and cons. The worst is trying to have it both ways. Because then, let's take an example. Say you have 200 connections and you know all of them well. You're on a search for an advanced search. You see one hiring manager who's hiring for your position, and you have one mutual connection. You can speak with that person and they can refer or introduce you. If you have 2,000 connections and you know 200 of them, then when you look at the same hiring manager, let's imagine you'll see 5 names, but 4 of them you don't actually know. So it will take you more time. And if the hiring manager looks at your profile and Tripti, they see the same 5 names, will not be there to whisper in their ear, see number 3 there? That's the person I would like to speak with because they actually know me.
Yeah.
Our profile needs to speak for itself, and our connections also need to speak for themselves. Either works. If you try to have it both ways, you will end up having very little of either.
It's like stepping on 2 boats. Like, how far can you go with that? And like choose a boat, choose your path, and you can row it, and you can face the obstacles and everything. But if you put each foot in 2 boats, then somewhere in the middle of the ocean, there's a chance you'll fall down and you like sink in, and unless you know how to swim and come back to one boat again.
Most of us don't.
Yeah. That's true. So I think like we were talking about pros and cons, and everything has 2 sides, right? So even right now, this stage has 2 people. Like everything has like two sides of everything. So let's come to our the most important topic of today. So if we could just go over some do's and don'ts, right? So what's the most epidemic mistake you noticed among tech job hunters?
Great. So the first one I would like to mention is that their profile is half-baked and it doesn't speak for itself. If you build a good LinkedIn profile, then your CV has become redundant. In other words, when I visit your profile, I know whether I need to interview you or not.
Yeah.
And if you only started working with LinkedIn and you haven't built a good profile, then when I visit your profile, I may say, you know what? Tripti could maybe be a good candidate, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And if at this point you imagine that the hiring manager or the reader will reach out to us and say, hey, please send us your CV, then this is a Disney movie that no longer happens. Because next to you, they'll find another lady or another gentleman who may have less experience than you, but they provided answers to the reader. And they're the one who get the contact, they're the one who get the interview, they're the one who get the job because they did add an extra step and their profile speaks for itself. So first, simply look at your profile, or even better, ask someone to look at your profile and say, what do you think I'm looking for? What is my experience? And don't guide them. Don't say, you know what? It says X, but I want you to know Y and Z. Or it only mentions this, but I also studied, Kubernetes
Yeah.
and React. You will not be there to guide them. So try to ask them. And if they have questions like, what do you mean when you write X? Then instead of educating them, we just thank them and we get back to the drawing board and we improve our profile. Because if they're not sure, then our reader may also have doubts. And we want to minimize the doubt. We want to make them sure that reaching out to us makes sense. So the first suggestion is to make our profile complete and help the reader understand why they need to reach out to us. Do we have time for one or two quick more?
Yeah.
Cool. So we mentioned it just briefly again. An inconsistent connection policy means that on the one hand, we know 20 or 40% of the people we're connected with. And on the other hand, we don't have 40 or 50 or 60,000 connections. So we're not able to leverage the opportunity to be introduced, nor do we have enough exposure for us to say, hey, I'm looking for the next chapter, and 1,000 people will see it. Because let's be frank about it, when we share something on LinkedIn, for most of us, maybe 2% of our network will actually see it.
Yeah.
So if we have 5,000 connections, it's only 100 people.
True.
When we have 50,000 connections and 1,000 people see, then it becomes more interesting. So pick one. Remember what we discussed a couple of weeks ago? Pick one. Most is great. Best is great. But if you're staying in between and you try to have it both ways, your inconsistent connection policy will make your job search longer, less effective, and you will not be in a strong position to land your dream job. And maybe a third quick point is to add information that could help our ideal reader. Maybe we could discuss that in a minute or two.
Sure. Great. So, LinkedIn or any other platforms or anything, all the premium feature comes when you pay for it, right? So, um, as job seekers, you get like the AI automated messages, you get, unlimited personalized notes while sending connection requests. So many feature comes with LinkedIn Premium, right? Where you have to pay certain amount. But let's say if you are someone who just graduated and looking for a job, right, and has almost no experience or negligible experience with just internships and whatsoever. So do you think, are there any free or free and easy way for talents to upgrade their profile without getting the premium version of it?
Of course. So let me suggest 2 or 3 quick suggestions. If you have contributed to GitHub and you have projects, or you mentioned internship, maybe during the internship there was something you worked on. There's a simple way for you to add links to your LinkedIn profile. It doesn't cost a dime. You just have to go and add it. And the strongest place to add it is in your featured section. And you go that by visiting your profile on desktop and clicking on add profile section, and then recommended, and then feature, and then plus, and you add. For example, it could be a video of the product you worked on. Or it could be a project, an open source project, or something that helps me understand why you need to be interviewed. if you gave a talk, if there's a video, if you worked something, if even your computer science degree had a project that you think is interesting, and the question to ask is this: if I'm not sure whether I need to interview that person or not, and then I saw the link to that project, and I visited the project's link, would it help me understand I want to interview them? And our audience knows the answer. And when they think there's a link that could be added to their profile that makes them show their best side, then go to a profile, add it under the featured section, and more people will stay on your profile, more people will study that project, and more readers will say, you know what? Let's get in touch with that person.
Right. But is it something like if your account is premium, then it gets visible a lot than just a regular profile?
Please don't mention it to anybody, but you don't have to pay for a LinkedIn premium account to get 99% of the advantage of the LinkedIn platform. Everything that the premium version has can be accessed in without paying. It's just done in a different way. Let me give a quick example.
Mm-hmm.
It's very helpful to know as tech job seekers who visited our profile. Okay, so if we make ourselves visible, then we go to the homepage, we see who viewed our profile, we scroll, and then we'll see up to 5 names. We don't have to pay LinkedIn to see those names. So premium users will get the names because they pay. But if you don't have the budget for it, then just make yourself visible and then visit who visited your profile. And when you see someone interesting, maybe you spoke with a friend in one company and someone from that company, Tripti, has just visited your profile.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that often that person is part of the hiring process. It could be the hiring manager, it could be HR, it could be someone else. So try to make yourself visible, just like WhatsApp. If you want to see both blue ticks, then we need to enable others to see it. That's it.
Yeah, that's nice. Just I think it's just a slightly longer way than the premium, but then it's possible, right? So
Yes,
you
absolutely.
should be willing to spend that time and give that little extra hard work and effort if you want to achieve something, from the long path.
Absolutely. Like once
Right.
a week would be enough for most people. And if you're working on LinkedIn to the extent that, 200 people visit your profile, then pay.
Nice. Yeah, because that way it looks like your profile is doing good in a way as well, right? If so many people are visiting
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Uh,
we could also add a banner to a profile. And here
yeah.
the limit is really our imagination. It doesn't have, you don't have to pay. There's on Canva, you can create beautiful free banners that could show your expertise. You can visit pexels.com and find a cyber image that you liked, and you can write a slogan. You can take a screenshot of your business card, anything that makes us stop and say, okay, let's dive in and see what that person has actually done.
Yeah. That's nice. Also, it looks visually also nice, having things attached in your banner, and then because people maybe they just see it and then get some interpretation and then they want to read into it. If they don't see anything, they might not read it, right? So if it's like visually appealing for them, the banner, and then they want to know more about you, so I think that could be like a plus point.
The more people spend on our profile, the likelier they are to get in touch with us.
So is there any counterintuitive tip that you can suggest to our audience, our viewers?
Cool. So let's get back to the dream job we're looking for, and say we're an embedded software developer and we just found someone in our target company that could introduce us to the hiring manager. So we'll call the hiring manager Dave, and we'll call Alex our mutual connection. When communicating with Alex, most people will simply message Alex on LinkedIn, say, hi, I saw that position, and noticed that you were connected with Dave. Do you know him well enough? Could you introduce me? But actually, what I would suggest is to take the conversation outside of LinkedIn. Outside of LinkedIn. Get to email, or if you're really in good terms, then have a call or something else, because if you communicate inside LinkedIn, it's not very easy for people to reply to messages. And imagine that I sent your way a message, and I say, I want you to work for Tech Jobs Fairs itself. Could you please forward my CV? Now, Tripti, if I do this on LinkedIn, there's no way for you to forward my message with the attachment to the Tech Jobs Fair manager. But if I did it via email, then you could, because the attachment is there, and you're not putting yourself in the middle. You're just forwarding to the right person. So the greatest ability is to remember when to leave LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has provided us with valuable information. We saw the job, we saw the hiring manager, we saw our mutual connection, but we don't have to live within LinkedIn. Now's the time to get outside of LinkedIn. We want to speak with our mutual connection and actually hear what he has to say. He may say, you know what? Yes, I can introduce you to that person, but I think the position you found is no longer available. Let me check with them. Maybe there's something else.
That's a good one. Because do you think this is a mistake that people would make, like just putting efforts, being on LinkedIn and trying to, let's say if they're applying for some role, one job role, and then they see, and also I've seen like people they like open the profile of the company and then look for people who work there, and then trying to target those who are in the similar field, and then you ask for referrals or tell them like, I see your organization is hiring, do you think I could be a good fit, and all of that, and reaching out to multiple people for one job role. So do you think that's a mistake that people, like you're saying, like you should know the right time to leave LinkedIn and reach out maybe manually or personally? So is that a mistake, or is that something we can work on?
Absolutely, we can work on it. I mean, mistake is too harsh a term. It doesn't make it easy for the person we're reaching out to reply to us. And email is for most people more intuitive, and they can work with that better. And at one point, we'll get again to the LinkedIn platform. But I think, imagine I would have coffee with you, and you would say, you know what? I think I'd like to introduce you to the Tech Jobs Fair. Tomorrow there's an event in Berlin. There's a position that you could be a good fit for. And today I'll speak with that person. And Tripti, will I leave and go to that LinkedIn, that hiring manager LinkedIn profile? No, I would communicate with you. I'll say, you know what, that's great. If you could, this is exactly what I'm interested in. So don't go to LinkedIn when you don't have to. LinkedIn is very valuable. It has over 1 billion members. And since we started this conversation, thousands of people have signed up. Every second, 3 people sign up. But still, the secret is not LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a means. It can help us communicate. It can help us get in touch with someone we're interested in. But there are other tools that may be a better solution for parts of the process.
Right. So it's just good to have like an idea of what and how things work, right? So that they can take steps accordingly, right? Also, like based on your experience, is there something that could still be a surprise for tech job seekers about LinkedIn, like anything that could impact their chances of being contacted or noticed?
Okay, so I'll say this. When we visit someone's profile, we may see the word message. But unless we're connected with that person, when we click on the word message, we cannot message that person. And most people don't believe that, because usually we communicate with people we're connected to. So again, when I'm connected with Jane, I would message her on LinkedIn, and that works. But if you wanted to message Jane and you and Jane are not connected on LinkedIn, then you will see a nice badge saying, Tripti, please upgrade. No offense, but we don't want to make it difficult for people to reach out to us. Just I invite anyone here to simply visit one or two profiles of people they're not connected with. So when we visit someone's profile, LinkedIn shows us a digit. First, mean you and that person are connections. Try someone that doesn't have the first digit. It may say second or third, and look for the word message. And if it appears there, try to click and stop. Can you really message them, or are you asked to upgrade? And when you understand that you can no longer message them, it doesn't make sense. It's not important that we see our contact info in our profile. Because when you visit other people's profile, you will usually see the email under contact info just for our connections. There's a simple hack for that. Anyone commenting on the LinkedIn event, I don't want to explain here, but it's very easy. Anyone who says, yes, I want to know how to help people access or email me, I'll explain exactly how to do that. It takes less than 40 seconds.
Great. So, guys, if you want to understand that and know that, how you can do it and get maybe more visibility, and if people could contact you, then you can reach out to Daniel or leave your comments in the comment section. Right. So, I think that brings us to, to my final question to you for the session. And so you are, your consulting business is based on LinkedIn, and you are, let's say, an expert in LinkedIn. So is LinkedIn proficiency the most important skill?
No, my business is built on LinkedIn. But more than that, my business is based on referrals. It's a trust business. It's a service-based business. So networking for me is far, far more important than LinkedIn. Because Tripti, you and I could have networked, 25 years ago before LinkedIn, and we may communicate in 25 years when there's some new shiny object. So LinkedIn is the tool. It's a great tool. But the essence is understanding that people we have studied with and worked with, even if let's get back to the person who's just graduated. So they tend to look at the world and say, hey, this person is super connected and that person is super connected, but I don't know anybody. Truth is that our classmates, in 2 or 3 years' time, where will they work? All sorts of companies, and some of those companies will be interesting for us. Now, it's a lot easier to keep in touch with those people we actually worked with or studied with than knock on the door in 3 years' time and say, hey, remember me? I just saw that you were promoted and you're looking for a DevOps engineer. Could you drop something and can I forward you my CV? No one likes it when we remember them, only when we need them.
Yeah.
So networking should not be done when we're famous or important. You can network in kindergarten and you can network well. Just have a look and you know what? Pick maybe 2 or 3 classmates that you enjoyed working with and ask yourself, is there a way I could keep in touch with that person after class ends when we graduated? For some people, it may be just a Merry Christmas or a Happy Birthday. And if you keep in touch with that person when you don't need anything from them for 2-3 years, and in 3 years' time, you want to reach out to them, most people will feel a lot easier to get in touch with them. And they will not look at you, hey, we haven't spoken since class ended. But you know what, Tripti? You're the 5th person who suddenly remembers me because my company now advertised the job on LinkedIn. And how have you been? Try not to make that mistake. Try not to be that person.
Right. Yeah, of course, networking is very, it's like key, right, to maybe have like a successful in terms of career or even life, like because even like in family, you should have like good bonding. Like at least like, just don't call them when you need something or like, but at least sometimes you can just call and say, hey, how are you? Or maybe when you visit their place, you're like, I was just around here. Are you home or we catch up? I'm like, having that little time and connection is important. And networking is key to, I think, everything right now. And LinkedIn networking has become one of the most important and essential part for job seekers or anyone wanting to have their professional branding done, right? So I think that's a very good point that you mentioned. Yeah. And
Exactly. It's just like
yeah,
insurance. We maybe we don't want to activate, we don't want to use it, but if we have to, then we feel a
yeah.
lot better because we chatted with you and we had that tea when we didn't need anything from you. It makes it a lot easier for both of us.
Right. Like even for you, if you hadn't reached out to someone for 3 years and then you see they're working in like one of your dream companies and then in a good position and then they're looking for jobs, then even for you to reach out or even what to message, that context also is difficult. But then you somehow get the courage to message them, hey, hi, how are you doing? And then because they are not in touch and they don't know anything about each other, so all they can do is, I see your company's hiring, and do you think you could refer me or something? That comes out a little odd and just awkward, I guess.
As we speak, let's imagine that three years is a good threshold. Okay, so in people
Mhm.
you studied with 3 years ago, you still remember, but maybe in 2 more years it will become too blurry. So
Mhm.
right now, anyone who watches this has a number of people who are almost about to fade. They
Yeah.
remember us now, yeah, but in 2 years' time, it will go like, where did you come from? So out of those people, maybe pick, you know what, one person you had pleasure working with, one person who was a good classmate, and if you do it when you're not looking for a job, then you can really pick the most interesting people you have pleasure speaking with, regardless of anything you need. Because
Right.
if you don't spend that time going and chatting with them when you don't need them, there may come a time where you have to spend a lot more time and you'll get a lot lower return.
Yeah, that's
Even
true.
in terms of your investment of time, it makes more sense because networking should not be done when you need it. When you need it, it's basically too late.
Right. And I mean, like, the session is going amazing, and like I'm personally having a lot of fun, but we do have some time constraints, and unfortunately we have to bring this session to an end, right? And then you've shared a lot of tips and insights about LinkedIn on how to better use it and all of that. But before we wrap this session, do you want to add anything from your end? Is there anything that you want to let our job seekers know, like a final tip from your end?
Like a 30-second exercise is to have someone you're not connected with examine your LinkedIn profile and tell you frankly what they think. And we don't guide them. We don't say, you know what, this means X or this means Y. And this is something that two people can do. And within 5 minutes, you'll get a lot of questions like, when I chose that banner, I thought it would represent me well because of the. But if two people say, what is this? Then you can improve your profile and you've paid some price, but you understand you made your profile friendlier to your reader and not just for us. Our profile is not here to serve us. It's here to serve our ideal reader.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Right, that's true.
And guys, if you have any questions still, and you would want to maybe build or enhance your LinkedIn profile, maybe you can connect with Daniel, or you can drop your comments below in the LinkedIn event page, right? And also for all the job seekers out there, if you are looking for jobs in the tech industry, we have our events coming up, and you can check out our website techjobsfair.com to see all the events, both virtual and physical. And if you're a job seeker, you can get your free ticket as well. So yeah, don't forget to do that. And thank you so much, Daniel, once again for joining us and sharing your knowledge and insights with our viewers. It was pleasure having you with us.
Tripti, thank you very much. This is the best part of my day.
That means so much, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day and the week. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Until next time, take care and have a good time. Bye bye. Thank you,
Cheers.
Daniel.
Thank you.